Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Lark from Wellington here. Today we're going to be talking about our weekly Bitcoin news roundup, looking at the markets, seeing what's going on with Segwit2x, what Bjork and South Korean TV have to do with Bitcoin this week, and of course having a look at our favorite friends over in the banking sector and what they have to do with money laundering. Interesting. All that and more after a quick shout out to everyone who has been hitting that like button, and of course everybody who has been subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for the support, guys. And of course, if you want, you can always follow me along on steemit.com or support me over on Patreon. You guys got to remember, this is not professional financial advice. This is just a dude talking about cryptocurrencies and our big baby Bitcoin. Let's get into it. Bitcoin today at $7,045.02. Now, it's had a pretty exciting week. Only a week ago, we were around $6,140. We hit the all-time high just the other day, $7,609.90 as registered on CoinMarketCap. Of course, some people did buy Bitcoins for significantly higher prices than that. However, that is our new official all-time high. Just over there, of course, we are down quite a bit. Currently, expect bumpy roads ahead as we get closer to the Segwit2x hard fork. Now, we can probably see more price action moving up as people are continuing to try to buy their Bitcoins, hold the Bitcoins, and get that chain split token. Because, of course, it will be quite valuable. Now, if you look at the 3-month, the growth of Bitcoin has been amazing. 3 months ago, you were able to get Bitcoin for around $3,200. A little less than that during the big tasty dip down here. We got down to just around $3,000. And of course, right up from there. Unsurprisingly, the majority of the demand is still coming from East Asia. Bitfinex doing $440 million worth of business Bitcoin USD pairings in the last 24 hours. Wowzers. Absolutely wowzers on that. And of course, Japanese yen and Korean won featuring highly in the charts here as well. We're going to talk a little bit about Segwit2x today. This is a really great post over on Medium from Whale Panda. If you're not following Whale Panda over on Twitter, I would suggest you go and do so. He's a great commentator in the space, and he put together some really good arguments against Segwit2x here. First argument, I'm just going to summarize some of his main points here. Financial incentives. The core developers over at Bitcoin Core, they're working on an open source project. Yeah, they're Bitcoin holders, but they're not getting paid. The guys supporting 2x, they're going to get paid. They're representing, their CEOs representing the biggest mining companies, the biggest exchanges. They're venture capitalists. They've brought on Jeff Garzik, who is currently the only developer for Segwit2x. And of course, he's got his own drama that he's bringing, trying to create his own ICO to solve developer drama and forks as they themselves are forking Bitcoin. Another argument against this is, of course, that blocks will be slow, and because the blocks for Bitcoin Core will be slow, people will switch over to 2x because that's where the mining power will be. Of course, people who are hodling or people who have their Bitcoin on exchanges will not need to move it back and forth, and so this may not be as big of an issue as some people say it will be. The chain with the most accumulated difficulty will be Bitcoin. Essentially, the idea is that all the miners control all the hashing power. The majority of the miners are signaling for 2x. However, Bitcoin Core and the core nodes will be able to reject them as invalid blocks. Of course, whole nother level of drama here. Furthermore, the conversation is usually pushed around the scaling debate. However, what it really comes down to is block weight. And Segwit actually fixed most of the problems that had been brought forward, which is why everyone was so surprised when the team jumped ship and made Bitcoin Cash. The interesting thing as well is that a lot of the big companies haven't actually implemented Segwit yet either. They got the solution to the problem, refused to take the solution, made Bitcoin Cash, a certain proportion of them, and the others continued pushing for, of course, 2x. And of course, one of the arguments by the 2x team is that Bitcoin Core has not been developing at the rate that they want to see it at, but of course all of these hard forks that are happening all the time, of course, are very distracting for the team. So take it for what you will. If you are looking to find out who is supporting Segwit2x, well, that is a great question. Now, outside of all of the characters who are pushing it from a corporate level, the Jihan Woos, the Roger Veres, etc., we got to go down because you got to want to know how you're going to get your 2x coin. Because I know that's a question on a lot of people's minds. And so, if you want to get it from an exchange, here's how to get it. The following exchanges are supporting it. The big ones: Bitfinex, CEX, Coinbase, HitBTC. Find your preferred coin exchange on the list here and make sure that you do have it on that exchange, and they'll take care of it for you. Exchanges that are not supporting it are very much smaller list. The biggest name that stands out here is BitMEX. That is one of the bigger exchanges. They have come out and said they're not going to credit their users with B2X coins. That is something that you do need to know if you are a BitMEX customer. Now, what about hardware wallets? Well, the Ledger team and the team from Trezor have both come out with specifications about how you can get your Segwit2x coin. Ledger has got it basically so you'll be able to not really have to do much of anything, which is fantastic. They have got an automated process that will take place. Do make sure you're staying up to date with the latest news. So if you want to get that automatic Bitcoin, what you need to do is make sure that your client is updated, okay? So make sure you get over there and update your ledger with the newest software. Trezor as well, coming out saying, yes, we're supporting the Segwit2x hard fork, and here's how you'll be able to get your split coin. Now, the one interesting thing to note with the whole Segwit2x argument is that the guys over at 2x are not going to implement replay protection. They're so confident that 2x will become the main chain that they are not going to implement replay protection. That can cause all kinds of chaos and is, to be honest, very irresponsible of them, in my opinion, to be not implementing replay protection for that. Of course, their argument is that, well, we are the true Bitcoin, we will be the true Bitcoin, therefore it is not necessary. Pretty bold move. Of course, there are the conspiracy theorists who are saying that all of this is simply a big conspiracy arranged by the Bitcoin Cash people to mess with and attack Bitcoin, to cause confusion in Bitcoin, to make people lose their Bitcoin so that Bitcoin Cash can become the dominant chain. There are big things at play here that you and I, as regular Bitcoin users, are far removed from. But one thing is certain: choppy waters ahead, guys. Moving on. Head of the world's largest exchange embarks on Bitcoin gambit. This is from the CME group, so that is the Chicago-based exchange. Now, they are going to start trading Bitcoin futures, and advanced Bitcoin financial products. That is, of course, great news for Bitcoin, that it is becoming, again, more and more mainstream all the time. Just on the back of this news, over in Argentina, the biggest future markets to add Bitcoin as well. I think it will be a trend that we'll see moving forward as a lot of different futures markets do add Bitcoin in. And of course, then it's only a matter of time before we start seeing things like Ethereum hit those markets as well. According to a study by LendEdu, 78.5% of Americans have now heard of Bitcoin. It's quite a few. Be interesting to hear what that number is globally, of course. Over the weekend, Coinbase added 100,000 new customers in one day. That was, of course, followed on by the futures announcement from CME. Coinbase now has 11.9 million users. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Do the math. Think about the demand for Bitcoin growing exponentially. Coinbase alone is adding 35 to 50,000 customers a day. And that's just one exchange. You look over at the biggest exchanges that are doing business: Bitfinex, Coin1, Bithumb, on and on and on and on and on. It's underway, guys. It's underway. Make sure you are accumulating and hodling your Bitcoin. This was a lot of fun. And in all the seriousness about Segwit2x is a story that I most welcomed. A South Korean TV channel, they have a reality show, and they put two movie stars to compete against each other, going around trying to spend Bitcoin. Long story short, the guy had to try to live off of Bitcoin in Seoul for a week. And they sent the girl to San Francisco, and she had to try to live off Bitcoin in San Francisco for a week. Now, surprisingly, San Francisco was much, much more Bitcoin friendly than Seoul. So even though the demand is very, very high for cryptocurrencies in South Korea, San Francisco won well ahead. Now, unfortunately, the whole program is in Korean, but if you speak Korean, or if you just want to come watch some portions of it, some of it is in English. When the girls, for example, are talking to people, here she's getting a haircut, paying in Bitcoin for her haircut. Of course, she has to come and talk English to the guy to get the haircut done, so you can come check that out if you want. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun. I liked the few minutes that I watched. Bjork has a new album coming out. Woo! Cool. Now, she's encouraging her fans to buy it with Bitcoin. That's cool. That's cool. I knew Bjork was a cool lady, and that's even cooler. You go, Bjork. You be you. This is an article that made me laugh a little bit. Banks are staying away from Bitcoin bubble due to money laundering, says the Credit Suisse CEO. Well, I suppose it's fair for banks to be concerned about money laundering. You know, they certainly wouldn't want to be involved in money laundering, would they? Oh, right. Credit Suisse fined over Singapore money laundering. That was in May. Interesting. Credit Suisse embroiled in major global tax evasion investigation. Now, these are just stories from this year. If you go back, every year, basically, Credit Suisse has multiple newspaper articles written about it where they have been involved in money laundering, tax evasion, and all kinds of dirty financial dealings. For them to come out and say this is hypocritical beyond belief. In the Vatican to address and highlight Bitcoin use in the slave trade. This is such a hit piece, and you've seen a lot of this. Okay, Bitcoin's being used for drugs, Bitcoin's being used for slaves, all these different attacks trying to link Bitcoin with the worst things in the world. Do some slaves get bought and sold using Bitcoin? Sure. Gotta keep it real. Of course that happens. Are the majority of slaves bought and sold using euros and US dollars? Yeah. Why aren't they talking about that here? That is just as relevant, Mr. Pope. Of course, if you want to keep your mind open as well. The Vatican Bank has been embroiled in multiple money laundering schemes, dealings with the mafia, etc., etc. Who is running the slave trade? Oh, it's the mafia. Right. Now, to be fair to the Pope, he is trying to clean up the Vatican Bank. These stories are from a couple years ago. I feel like the Pope's coming from a good place on this one, even though he may be a bit misguided on his criticism of Bitcoin. But we'll see what the final words are. And of course, our good friend, the Saudi prince, who came out bashing Bitcoin, has himself been arrested for money laundering. Are you seeing a theme here, guys? Are you seeing a theme? I was surprised when I read the news. It's banks, Bitcoin, money laundering. Banks, Bitcoin, money laundering. All these guys, of course, getting in trouble for money laundering themselves. Of course, they didn't realize they could have just bought Bitcoin. Silly guys. Silly, silly guys. Okay, being funny there, guys. Now, over in Nepal, more serious news. Nepal continues its crackdown. Now, while the Saudi prince may have deserved to have been arrested, over in Nepal, they have arrested some guys for basically setting up a Bitcoin exchange in Nepal. And this follows on from our news story we covered just a couple weeks ago, where there was about 24 arrests in Nepal of Bitcoin users. Bitcoin is completely against the law in Nepal, unfortunately. So hopefully we can see that turn around in the near future. Obviously Nepal, not the world's biggest country, but still, Bitcoin should be open and free to everybody. The fact that governments are going around spending their time and energy busting and arresting people who use Bitcoin is ridiculous. To finish on a high note, great news out of Iran. Iran is laying the groundwork for Bitcoin adoption. That's fantastic. Hopefully we're not going to see any turnaround. We have seen stories like Vietnam and Malaysia come out and say, hey, we're really excited. We're going to, go full crypto and we're jumping into this, and then have a complete turnaround not too far after that. In those particular situations, I highly suspect Chinese influence. I hope that Iran will be able to adopt Bitcoin in a fun and open way that lets their citizens partake in this global evolution of money. Speaking about money, free Bitcoin! Free Bitcoin! Gonna be giving away $50 in Bitcoin every week during my Bitcoin news video. If you want to be in to win, put your Bitcoin address down below and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, guys. That is all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time, guys.